Hey everybody, this is Aylad and we're back on the Starmada server. Oh yeah. Did you ever have one of those moments when you're so sure you're gonna blow everybody's mind and you maybe slightly brag about it ahead of time and then things just don't work out the way that you expected them to? Well, this episode is about one of those moments. Due to some glitches in the game, I'm having to drastically change plans that, if they'd worked out, would have really been cool. Yeah, we're just going to have a look at my failure, and then I'm going to show you why it failed and talk about my plans for fixing everything. Alright, so today's episode concerns some work I was going to do on my modular ship here. I had this idea where I was going to use a robotic arm to kind of pull the modular ship out of storage or docking or whatever and bring it on forward. Then I was going to have other robotic arms come in from the sides, pull modules out of storage, like in this storage pod here, bring it over and attach it to the ship. Here you see one of the robotic arms that I'd already finished. There was going to be one on each side and then even one in the back, pulling modules up for the rear of the ship. The problem that I ran into, though, was some serious desync errors, where because I had so many moving parts performing fairly complex motions at different points of the cycle, basically even with only one side in operation, the server and my client were starting to disagree about where everything was. Now I ran the full gamut of different desync errors and other issues like that. So I don't know if I can get this to work, but I think I can. So let's see, the lid's sliding open. In a second you should see this module pop out, attached to a little robotic arm that's designed to look a little bit like a worker drone. Alright, okay. Little frame rate drop there, but nothing serious. It's working. And then it brings it down to the end of this rail, and the logic's not in place to actually detach it from the arm. I ran into some serious desync errors when I started working on that. But it would bring it down here and just kind of, ideally it was supposed to detach, and then the pickup point on the ship frame would actually, grab on to the module and lock it in place. And then I could just pretty much fly off, yeah. After docking the ship frame again, I could hit this activation module here. It automatically detach the modules from all points on the ship frame. Then the robotic arms would come back up and stow them back in the storage compartments. So let me see if that'll work. I may actually get one bug-free cycle out of this. Yeah. So far so good. And, the logic for this, I'm not going to say is flawless, but the logic is as good as anything I've ever created. Now in the tear apart and repair process, sometimes things get delinked from the logic. There's a glitch in the system where sometimes things don't link up properly. But that's, again, that's not with my logic issues, that's with game issues. And then once it's in place, the lid slides back into place. In a second here, you're going to see a little targeting bracket pop up. Boom, right there. That little flash of a target was actually the module detaching from the robotic arm and getting hooked onto this pickup rail right here that leads into a storage area. The idea was I was actually going to be able to store 3 salvage modules over here on this long pickup rail, and it'd be all enclosed, of course. And they would, they'd be shifting positions so that if I needed to dock a new one, they'd move out of the way. But if I was fetching one out to attach to a ship, they'd ride down the pickup rail and be ready to go here in the compartment. So I had some pretty big plans there I was pretty proud of. But yeah, over the course of running this several times, even though the logic works correctly, and I maintain that, this is it's not a design issue. I I just keep on running into issues where things pop up in the wrong place, or they break off rail docks or whatever. So let me see how long it takes me to break the system. I don't think it's going to take very long at all. Alright, so here we go. Okay. A little frame rate hiccup again, nothing major. I'm actually running a lot of programs in the background right now, so I'm sure that has a lot to do with it. Okay. So far, so good. I bet I don't make it through a complete cycle of bringing it out to the ship frame and then bringing it back in again. I just have a feeling I'm not going to get that lucky twice in a row. Okay, so bringing it back. Alright. Drop it into place. Very cool. I don't like the fact that it looks like it moves forward after it rotates, because it doesn't, or at least it's not supposed to. I think that's a visual glitch. Part of the desync again. There we go. You see how that bracket didn't go away? It thinks it's colliding with something. I think it thinks it's colliding with pickup rail. And then in its efforts to find some place that it actually fits, it just floats right through the walls. So I tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to actually restart my computer, or not restart my computer, but I'm going to restart the game and see where it thinks it is when I log back in. So give me just a second. Alright, so here we are again, just getting loaded in. Because I've got a lot of other stuff eating computer memory and processor time, and because my laptop truthfully is barely able to cope with Starmade anyway. It's probably going to take me a little bit to get spawned in, but you know, we do the best we can. If anybody wants to donate me a brand new gaming PC, I would gladly accept. So a couple other issues I ran into while working on this. There's new logic in place where you can select a rail with C and then select an activation module with V, and that is supposed to activate the activation module when something is docked to that section of rail, and then deactivate it when something is undocked from that section. That doesn't work. At least not, it doesn't work the way that I expected it to. What seems to happen for me is that even after it undocks, moves to another section of rail, whatever, it tends to leave the activation module active. So it's kind of useless as a sensor for knowing when something is docked to a rail. Another thing that I've had going on is I tried to use area triggers to detect when I had some of the moving parts in certain places. And if you've ever tried using those, you're probably aware of this. Those don't work. They work maybe about a third of the time, maybe half the time. But at one point I had redundant systems set up, like 3 or 4 different area triggers on 2 different entities, trying to detect when that salvage module was actually in place, and I got different results every time I moved it. So basically those are completely useless for detecting docked entities. Or undocked entities for that matter. So as of yet, there are some serious issues with things like knowing where a docked entity is. Okay, so that's interesting. Look at that. Yeah, it's supposed to be inside the compartment. It apparently couldn't make it fit, so it just kind of floated it up above the compartment. Yeah. Well, okay, so this is where we are. Now, I'm all about moving forward. This game is in early access. There's a lot of things going to change. I'm not going to worry overly much about it. So anyhow, what I'm going to end up doing is over here, where I was originally going to install another shipyard that pretty much was going to mirror the first shipyard I've got way over there. Did I ever show this expansion? I didn't ever show this expansion. Yeah, so I added a huge central shipyard, and actually, if I get up here and look at it, it's actually 3 overlapping shipyards so that I can build multiple pieces of a ship all in place, more or less. And then I was going to do another shipyard over here that was going to mirror that first one that I've got. I think what I'm going to do instead is instead of having an actual shipyard, you know, as defined by game mechanics, I'm going to have this be a docking bay for my ship frames and all the modules that are supposed to dock to them. And instead of having moving parts, you know, moving arms that bring out the modules and assemble them onto the ship, basically I'm just going to move the modules on rails that are actually part of the main body of the station. So the only moving parts will be the ship frame and the modules. There won't be any of these robotic arm drone looking things. That'll simplify the motion. It'll simplify all the moving parts that the game is keeping track of, and it will hopefully avoid all, or maybe at least most, of the desync errors that have been causing me so many problems with this build. But it is very disappointing because, you know, what I had in my head was this epic process where, you know, with the touch of a single button from the control center, you know, all these moving parts were going to just like come together and grab the pieces you wanted for the ship template you chose, you know, depending on which button you pushed, and you're just going to have this great view of the whole process, you know, watching the ship be assembled right in front of you. Some of that will still be preserved, but a lot of it will kind of be lost because I won't have a lot of the moving parts. But if you can imagine watching that process from like right about here where my control center is probably going to be, it's going to be so fun, and it's really sad to lose it, but like I said, all about moving forward. Instead of lamenting what could have been, I'm just going to start, you know, doing the next best thing. So, still some pretty exciting stuff coming up. Not nearly as mind-boggling as I was hoping for, but it is what it is. So anyhow, thank you guys for watching. I very much appreciate your attention to this. You know, this video is kind of my consolation prize. I've put hours and hours of work into this, and the video is pretty much all I'm going to have to show for it. So thank you for coming to, you know, sharing my defeats. And I hope to see you in the next one. Bye bye.